to Monday, April 15th board meeting for the East China School District. We'll get started with a moment of silence and Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, the next item on the agenda is items of interest, recognition, and inquiry. And this evening, I'd like to just start off here with the fact that we are 3 weeks, just about 3 weeks until the May 7th vote for the bond. And I want to thank everyone first off for all their hard work on getting us this far. It has been a very lengthy, very in-depth process, and we couldn't have gotten to this point without the tireless efforts of so many people, from staff to community members to the students. You guys are the unsung heroes, and we appreciate all of you. It's really been heartwarming for me to see both of our communities work so very hard together and to come together for a unified goal, that of a combined Marine City St. Clair High School and Marine City St. Clair Middle School. While I'll be the first to admit when this was originally discussed a few years ago, I was not in favor of it, not at all. In fact, if I remember correctly, I think at that time most of our board was pretty much against it. I was, however, in favor of putting the strategic planning committee in place in order to come up with a plan that would address all of the district's needs, or at least what we thought those needs were at the time. A plan that in hindsight was not just a Band-Aid as our last bond proposal was, and a plan that would not cause more disruption than previous ideas that had been bounced around. And there were quite a lot of ideas that got bounced around. As the strategic planning committee did their work and made the recommendation to the board to create a comprehensive building plan that included community input, the bond steering committee was eventually formed. And as the work of this committee, which included pretty much everyone, parents, business owners, community leaders, residents, students, grandparents, teachers, administrators, and so many other caring district employees, it became evident to me the direction in which things were going and which they really did need to go. And let me tell you, this committee looked at absolutely everything. They worked tirelessly for many months and left no stone unturned. And somewhere throughout all of these committees, which most of us, I think, sat on at some point or another, I knew in my heart that if I, as a parent, now a grandparent, a business owner, but most importantly, in my role as a board member, that if I was going to continue to make all of my decisions based on putting the needs of our students first and foremost, that the bond proposal that was presented to us at our November meeting last year, which was the result of all of this hard work, that this plan really was the solution to all of the district's needs. But most importantly, and above all else, I believe with all of my heart that it's the right plan for our kids. So tonight, I'd just like to encourage everyone to get the facts. Don't rely on hearsay or social media, but find out exactly what is being proposed so that you too can vote on May 7th for what's best for our kids. Thank you. Would anybody else like to say anything? Karen?
Yes, I do. I have 3 topics that I'd like voters to consider regarding the bond proposal for May 7th. As a former teacher in the East China School District for 29 years, I've witnessed many changes, the most important being safety. In 1988, I didn't have to worry if my classroom door was locked or if I had an active shooter plan in place. Unfortunately, that is a reality for teachers and students today. The St. Clair High School and the Marine City complex have over 30 doors to the outside for teachers and staff to be vigilant to make sure unwanted guests are not allowed to enter. The bond addresses these concerns in every single building by having a limited number of entryways, a 2-step admission in order to get into the building, and automatic locking doors. The second change that I've encountered is obvious: technology. I realize the greatest asset in the classroom is a teacher. But when my computer would shut down in the middle of a lesson several times each week, it disrupted the flow of the lesson and wasted class time, as I was the only one who could relog into the system. I doubt any of us here have a cell phone that's over 10 years old, but most of our technology is at that point. My final reason for you to consider the bond proposal is the added programs with which students can participate. Marine City High School has an amazing Science Olympiad team that kids at the North End would love to join. The St. Clair High School has a robotics team that would be open to kids to the South End. Classes cannot be run if only 5 or 6 students sign up for them at each end, but together more offerings will be available to every student. So I'd like you to consider these things when you're voting. Thank you.
Anybody else? Lynn?
Yes, I would just like to share, I guess, first of all, a personal story about why I think this bond is so important. I was living in Dearborn in 2007 when I received a job offer at the St. Clair County Community Foundation. And the only stipulation on that job was that I had to live within St. Clair County. I had never been to St. Clair County. I had no friends in St. Clair County. I had no ties here. And so I made my decision on which community to move my family to based almost exclusively on the school districts. And I moved to St. Clair because of the East China School District and because of the reputation and because of all of the data that was collected. I chose here because of the schools. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I don't think I'm alone in that back in 2007 or 2010 or 2015. And I don't think I'm going to be alone in that moving forward. There was data recently reported through the census that the net migration into St. Clair County is the highest of the entire state. That means young families are moving back here. And I can guarantee you they're looking at the same data and the same buildings that I did when I came to this area. So if we want to stay competitive, if we want to bring families to this community and not lose them to surrounding communities, we need to have good schools. And good schools means great technology, it means good buildings, it means great learning environments. And I think that there's nothing more crucial to a really strong community than to a really strong school district.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, so, you know, on a personal note, I've been working in industry for my entire career. And, you know, I probably got to see the opposite of what most educators get to see. I get to see the output of technology and academics and schools and that sort of thing. And over the course of 20 years of hiring people, you know, high school through PhD level, it's very clear that the people that you hire, if they come from a district that fully supports the academic environment, you know, technologically, academically, you know, the students are much more prepared to work in the environment. And I see a very large gap in that area. And part of the reason why I wanted to be part of the school board is to help understand, you know, what the gaps are between education and the industrial world. And the more I got involved in this effort, the more clearly it has become to me that this is essential for the community. And, you know, over the past several decades, we've changed. We've been forced to change through technology, but the schools necessarily haven't changed. And the bond is really no different. Really what it's doing is bringing us up to date. We've all changed, but the infrastructure in the schools have not changed. And if we want to keep up with things and not put our kids behind, it's essential to make this investment. You know, when we approve this bond, it allows the kids to have the most academic opportunities. It allows us to draw, you know, the best future educators. And everybody wants to work in a great place, right? And it allows people to look at us through different glasses, if you will. You know, I think that it's just a great opportunity for us to invest in this community and something that I think we'll never regret, you know, if we do it for the kids. Thanks.
Yeah, I'd just say, you know, for me, this all comes down to a real simple statement. What is your vision for our district? Because I've had a lot of thoughts and heard a lot of things being said, and there's a lot going on in people's minds as they try to work through this. But what is your vision for our school district? And for me, simply stated, it's to be the best that we possibly can be. And I believe that this bond does just that. It makes us the best that we possibly can be. So I would just ask everybody to do two things. One, educate yourselves. There's a lot of information on our website. Every school, every principal, every teacher could help you understand if you have a question, every school board member. So educate yourself on the bond if you have questions. Now hopefully you get that information from somewhere other than just Facebook. The website is a good choice, and school staff. And then two, vote. All of this, you heard a lot of really nice things up here. There's been a lot of work put into this. But in the end, we need people to go and vote. And if every parent and every community member who cares about our schools and our kids goes and votes, I'm optimistic about the vision and the future for us.
Thanks, Todd.
All right, I guess it's up to me. I guess I can't really touch on too much more than what everybody else has said. Along with Jeannie, when I first took this position, I was not for this either. But if the last bond would have passed, we wouldn't be able to be where we are now, which is better. This is a much better. This is going to affect all of our students. Not just a little bit here and a little bit there. We're going to put them all together, and it's going to be amazing. And like Todd said, educate yourself, vote, please vote. And I'd like to thank everybody that was involved with this, all your time and determination, and Suzanne for hitting the ground running. And she she still has one more presentation, April 25th.
April 25th, the 7 p.m. at the Emmanuel Lutheran Church in St. Clair.
If you have not been to one, please attend this. She is so informative, and you will walk out with a whole different mindset.
I just wanted to take a minute from the administration's perspective to thank my team and all of the teachers and those that have been part of the informational campaign of answering people's questions, of researching to find out exactly what everybody needed to be comfortable with this bond proposal. And as Trustee Murphy just said, we have one more informational presentation, April 25th, 7 p.m. at the Emmanuel Lutheran Church. But again, big thanks goes out to everybody that has wanted to understand this, has come to these informational sessions, and has worked tirelessly to make sure that everyone has the answers that they're looking for. So thank you very much.
All right, so our next item on the agenda is special recognition, our Winter Athletic Awards with Mr. Dave Maru and Mr. Sandy Rutledge.
Thank you, President Frank, members of the board, Superintendent Sabula. Again, my name is Dave Maru. I'm Assistant Principal Athletic Director at Marine City High School, and it's my pleasure to honor our winter athletics. I'd like to start with our team recognitions. In the winter, our boys varsity basketball was the Macomb Area Conference bronze champions, as well as our varsity boys swim was our conference champions, also 4 sports county meet champions as well. So super excited for both teams and their recognition. Moving on to our individual recognition this evening. We have Randy Carnahan, all conference, all state, second team, and MAC all academic. Madison Negro, all conference, MAC all academic for girls bowling. Moving on to varsity boys basketball, we have Jack Crutchmar, all conference. We have John Mastrada, all conference. And Angela Petzals, all conference, MAC MVP, and MAC all academic. Ron Glodich was the MAC Bronze Coach of the Year for our boys basketball team as well. Moving on to girls varsity basketball, we have Morgan McConnell, who was all conference and MAC all academic. For powerlifting, we had Nick Barunda, who was all state and all academic, as well as Cassie Brown for all state and all academic. Moving on to boys varsity swim and dive, Gavin Collins, all conference. Ian Blackstock, all conference, all region, all state. He set 2 records this season, 6 dives and 11 dives at 310 and 455.8, as well as the part of the relay team that set a record for the 200 freestyle in 1 minute 33 seconds. We have Bradley Monarch, all conference, MISCA qualifier, D3 state qualifier, MAC all academic, and also part of that 200 freestyle relay team as well. We have Luke Pettinger, all conference, MISCA qualifier, all state, MAC all academic, and again, records in the butterfly, 100 freestyle, individual medley, and again, part of that freestyle relay team. We have Zach Pettinger, all conference, D3 state qualifier, again, part of the school record for the 200 free and the 200 freestyle relay as well. And last but not least, but we have Michelle Kennedy, our MAC Gold Coach of the Year for our varsity boys swim and dive. I just wanted to let everyone know we have extremely busy with practices and games and people going every which way. So again, we want to take the opportunity to honor those people. So thank you so much. Next, we have Sandy Rutledge for St. Clair.
Thank you, Mr. Maru. We'd like to as well honor our athletes from St. Clair. We both had, excellent winter seasons, and we look forward to honoring starting with our teams. Our varsity girls basketball was the MAC Gold Division champions as well as district champions. Our varsity boys wrestling was MAC Gold champions. And probably more importantly, they were all-state academic. They were 8th in Division II in the academics with a 3.55 team GPA. So congratulations. I know Coach Denny and Coach Nesbitt are very proud of that mark as well. Our girls varsity competitive cheer was the Mac White Sportsmanship Award. On to our individual athletes, Ryan Zimmer, varsity boys basketball, all conference. And out of baseball practice. Juliana Cataldo, varsity girls basketball, all conference, all academic, and MAC MVP. Mia Jansen, varsity girls basketball, all conference. Coach Mike Boulard was the MAC Silver Division Coach of the Year. On to hockey. We have a co-op program that any of our East China kids can play on, as well as Yale and the Port Huron High students. So Josh Witter is one of our 2 players that actually play on that team, and for the 2nd year in a row, Josh was all conference, MAC White first team, but he was also the MVP, which he received the Big Red of the Year award, which is pretty unusual for an East China student. He was also all MAC, all conference. Macy Chamberlain for powerlifting was a state qualifier. Aiden Gedke in powerlifting was second place in the state. He went to nationals over spring break and was 7th place in the nationals. He was first place in the Henry Ford Regional and second place in the Lake Orion Regional qualifier. Delaney Lohr in powerlifting, a state qualifier, and third place in the Lake Orion Regional qualifier. Ugo, sorry, I can't pronounce his last name. He's one of our foreign exchange students. And if you saw him, he doesn't look like a power lifter. He weighs about 90 pounds, but it's all by weight. So Ugo finished 7th place in the state championships, 3rd place in the regional qualifier. Third place in both regional qualifiers. Mason Spezia, powerlifting, state qualifier, 3rd place in the Henry Ford Regional qualifier. On to swim and dive, Matt Aragoni, all-state honorable mention, MAC all-academic. He broke the school record in the 100 breaststroke. He was the MAC white champion in the 100 butterfly, and he was all-conference. Nathan Baylock, all-league, all-academic. Jared Faulkner, one of our divers, who was all-state honorable mention, all-conference, and MAC all-academic. Spencer Hack, all-state honorable mention, all-conference, and MAC all-academic. Max Likens, all-state in the 100 backstroke, all-conference, MAC all-academic, and the school record holder in the 100 backstroke. Caden Proctor, all-state honorable mention, all-conference, and MAC all-academic. Colton Proctor, all-league, all-academic. Mitchell Hack, all-league, all-academic. Brad Vander Kerkhoff, all-league, all-academic. On to cheer, Jessica Diller was MAC white, all-conference. Avery Roush was MAC white, all-conference, all-district, and the MAC white MVP. Chloe Schweihofer was all-district. On to wrestling, Don Bacon was the MAC division champion. He was MAC all-academic team and MAC gold all-conference. Hagen Domagowski was MAC gold all-conference. Cam Haslam, regional qualifier, MAC gold, all conference. Joe Postma was MAC gold, all conference. Jason St. James, MAC gold, all conference. And John Westfall, MAC all academic team, second team all county, regional qualifier with a record of 35-11, and the MAC Gold All-Conference. And if I could add, just briefly, kind of adding on to some of the things some of the board members said, some of the things we hear are, people are afraid that if we consolidate high schools, that their kids won't have an opportunity to participate in sports because we'll be this huge mega school. And I just want to make sure you understand that we will still be, I believe, the 23rd or 24th biggest school in the MAC out of 36. There are 20-some schools in the MAC conference that have over 1,000 kids in them, and we will be one of the smallest. Marine City, there are only 3 schools smaller than them right now in the conference, and they're incredibly successful. One of the top 5 schools last year in overall finishes in all of our sports. So we're excited when both teams do get a chance to come together, that we will be very successful, and we think there are going to be more opportunities for kids to play. There are going to be freshman teams. We haven't had freshman football in a couple years. We're going to have freshman girls basketball at the north end. We have lacrosse at the north. They have bowling in the south, and there will be more opportunities for kids to participate in more sports, not less. So we are excited about the future of our district going forward. So just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm still getting a picture.
You should get a special prize.
Make sure it's not upside down. 1, 2, 3. Oh, look at that. Oh, come on, that's great, you guys.
Try mine with the electric.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Academic Spotlight, Bell River Elementary, a night of cultural creations. Mrs. Robin Smith, her principal.
Good evening, Superintendent Sybula, President Frank, and members of the board. I have some wonderful friends here, as you can see tonight. I'm not so nervous because I have lots of my friends with me from Bell River, and they're here to share their amazing artwork with you. Under the direction of Mrs. Kika Milligan, our art teacher, and Mrs. Christina Malberg, our Spanish teacher, last week we had a very special family night titled A Night of Cultural Creations. And that's what they're all here to share with you this evening. Mrs. Milligan's going to start us off.
Hello. So last year, Mrs. Mulberg and I did a school-wide art and Spanish show, and we had a really good time and thought this year to take it a step further, taking the curriculum from the Spanish classes and combining it into their art and the art classes. So we have some friends here today to share with you their experiences when working on these pieces. Kindergarten we looked at Salvador Dali and how silly some of those pieces are. Look at how long those legs are. Isn't that just so silly? So our kindergartners did their perspective of silly birds. And I have Miss Aubrey here to share with you. Aubrey, what do you absolutely love about kindergarten art?
Painting.
Painting. And that's what we did with our silly birds. We used some paint and some oil pastels. Nice job, honey. Our first graders did some Joan Miro inspired portraits. And we have Jackson Dunn and Caden Marlette here to share with you. Can you tell us what colors you used?
Primary colors.
Okay. What colors are those, do you remember?
Red,
Blue,
red,
and yellow.
Perfect. Yes, and we used some shapes and lines. Nice job, friends. And Mrs. Malberg.
Okay. And then in second grade, we talked about Las Llamas, which tied right into our South American portion of culture for Spanish class. And so we talked about Las Llamas, and we talked about Peru. So then the second graders made their own, they created their own Peruvian llamas, which just sparked a whole love of llamas in our whole school, and my classroom is now turning into all llamas. So it's just been great. So we have Michaela and Bo here, second graders that created their llamas. So Michaela, tell us about your llama, your llama.
I use a lot of different colors like red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. It turned out really cute. I'm proud of myself and it's great.
And then Bo, tell us about your llama.
I use a lot of different colors. I use rojo, anaranjado, amarillo, azul, verde azul, and morado. I named him Rex and gave him a top hat.
Okay. And then in third grade, we talked about Pablo Picasso, who comes from Spain, and the different art periods of his life, and then how he introduced abstract art to the world. So then our third graders created their own self-portraits in the style of Picasso. So we have Jimmy and May here to share what they did. So what was the most challenging part for you when you were creating your Picasso portrait?
Using different weird shapes that you wouldn't normally use to make you.
What did you find most challenging?
Making the shapes because they're really different and they're usually not normal.
Yep, so we had to make our self-portraits look different than what we normally do, right? Think outside the box a little bit.
And the fourth graders did some landscapes, and we looked at Romero Brito and his patterns and bright colors that he used in his landscapes. And we have Ava and Cameron here. Cameron, can you tell me what was your inspiration for your pattern ideas?
So the 32 in the middle, I am on a basketball team and that's my basketball number. So it means a lot to me. And then all the mountains so my grandma and grandpa live up north and we go there and visit them. And then the love sign is for my 6 family members.
Thank you, Cameron. And then Miss Ava, can you tell me, or tell all of us about your patterns and inspirations?
I decided to do nighttime for my picture because I thought it'd stand out and be more unique. And I did daisies because my grandmother loves daisies. And I tried to do some realistic things you would see in a garden, but I also tried to do some fun patterns in there too.
Okay, and then the 5th graders, we talked about Frida Kahlo and her little blue house in Mexico and how she was just an influential female artist and she just had such a hard life and she turned to painting to help her feel better and that's what made her happy. So then the 5th graders made their own Frida Kahlo portrait, self-portrait, and thought of something that made them happy to inspire their pieces. So we have Earl and Mackenzie that are going to talk first about their portraits.
The inspiration of my portrait is it's me at my boat during the night. I'm looking up at the stars and I just feel happy. The reason why I choose my background is because I love hanging out with my family and I have a pond in my front yard and we always swim during the summer and we always have a bunch of fun together.
Okay, and we have Madison and Peyton.
I came up with my inspiration when I went up to the UP with my friend and we sat on the rocks and watched the sunset. My inspiration of my piece is being up north with my grandma and papa, the same as Cameron's, and it just reminds me of being up north and yeah.
It's your happy place, right? Okay, so then last week, like Mrs. Hurst said, we celebrated all of these wonderful cultural creations from these students and every single student at Bell River. And the parents, all the families could come and we had them framed in the gym so they could look at them. And we had activities set up for the families to enjoy together, and it was just such a fun and successful night and just a great way to celebrate all the hard work that these students put into these cultural creations. More pictures, and then, there we go. Do we have any questions?
So did every student in the school have a framed picture?
Yes, every single student, kindergarten through 5th grade.
Awesome. So the students that are here, do they all have a place at their house now where they're going to hang those up?
Good question. It was truly amazing. It really, I mean, as their art, I'm just beaming because it was just an awesome, awesome experience for all of us.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Just to see them making the connections between the 2 itinerant classes, the special classes, it was just great.
Awesome. Yeah.
Great pictures.
Thank you so much.
So we have a little presentation. We have a framed picture for the Board of Education and one for Superintendent Sibula that we'd like to present to you.
Aw. I'm gonna cry.
Thank you. That's amazing. Isn't that beautiful?
That's awesome.
I think it looked beautiful in my office.
Thank you so
Colors.
much.
Notice the color.
Thank you again very much.
I love how they frame those.
That's awesome.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Actually, the one that we got for the board, I've got one like that in my house. Like that must be like a common.
Oh, well,
project
yeah,
that
but they have to do it.
and birch trees.
Yeah.
Got it hanging around. It's pretty cool.
Okay, so we're going to move along, but we're actually going to switch things up just a little bit to accommodate some scheduling conflicts. So at this time, Mr. Kevin Miller is here on behalf of RISA. That'll be item number 7B, and he's going to speak to the RISA 2019-20 budget proposal.
And I want to thank you for accommodating me. I'm headed to Memphis after this, so tight schedule, my board meeting and yours in Memphis afterwards. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I want to apologize. As you know, last year I was scheduled to be here, and a little thing called a grandchild came in the way. So that grandson is now a year, 11 months old tomorrow. So I would have been here in May last year, and I know Superintendent Sibula apologized for my absence last year. But what you're getting in a packet that Mr. Miller handed out is 3 packets. As you probably know, RISA has 3 different budgets. And as I've been known to say, never the twain shall they meet. We can't move money between the 3 budgets, but you have in front of you the kind of the manila one is our general fund budget, the yellow one is the special education budget, and the blue one is the CTE, or the career and technical education budget. I'm just going to give you some brief bullet points. And then, of course, you have these for a month, and assuming on your May agenda, you'll have an opportunity to cast a vote on the RISA budget as well. But any time between now and then, I know you're just getting it now because we just approved it a half an hour ago, but because of conflicts with 2 other board meetings next month on this date, I can't go to all 4 in one night. So I appreciate you having me here tonight. Section 81 would be our state aid, and that is one of the general fund revenues that we get, but it's only about 11% of our budget. Just so you know, we have a lot of other sources, including general fund revenue of $866,000 lower this year. That would be page 1 of the, if you're following along, of the proposed general fund budget. Page 1, if you want to compare the current budget of 18-19 with the proposed budget of 19-20, you'll see a difference this year of $866,000 less revenue. That is generally from the Great Start Readiness Program. As you know, we do most of the Great Start program for the county. There's just a couple of classrooms that RISA doesn't run. Otherwise, we then hire and supervise all the Great Start programs in the county. And so we had some carryover money last year, which made that amount higher. But our early childhood budget has gone from 0 9 years ago to over $5 million. This next fiscal year. So take that in for a moment, and you can tell now why we have over 75 employees in early childhood. now, so from 0 to over $5 million in a span of 9 years. We also have several grants that are included in your budget as well. Those are on page 2, and then pages 53 to 58 in your budget have all of the grant funding that we receive in our general fund. Property taxes are a huge part of our budget at RESA, but not in the general fund. Just a small portion of the general fund. A large portion, though, of our CTE and our special ed budgets are funded by property taxes. Thus, during the Great Recession, we had to end some programs because property taxes took a huge nosedive during that 5 to 7 year period during the recession. Well, since the GSRP revenue this year is lower, then expenses are going to be lower too. So you'll notice in the expense line, just a few down from the revenue line, that is lower going into next year as well. Otherwise, the budget is pretty flat, and the other categories are pretty stable from the previous year. So that's general fund. That's just a few overviews. And I should mention, by the way, because I wasn't here last year, I took over as superintendent 2 years and 2 months ago. And we have cut a little over $500,000 in administrative expenses. When I became superintendent, I took some of the duties that I had as administrative services director with me to the superintendent job. So we cut that position and the secretary position. She was retiring, coincidentally, so we cut that position when she retired. And then I remember Charlie Andrews, who was Marysville superintendent, went to RESA after exiting Marysville. Charlie was at RESA about 13 years, and Charlie retired that same spring that I became superintendent, and so we didn't replace that position either. So total, a little over $500,000 in total expense that we cut from the budget there. Special ed budget, which is represented in the yellow, almost exactly the same if you look at line 6 of page 1, literally $10,000 different from last year to this year. And we have a new program that we're moving under RESA. It's been run by the Virtual Learning Academy the past few years, but it's a transition program. You may be aware of it. It's for 18 to 25-year-old students who have not graduated. They're mildly cognitively impaired, so they're capable of working. And so the transition program literally transitions them into life. And all of those students go to school for a half a day, and then they work for a half a day. And so that program is moving under the RESA special ed budget for next year, and then it's going to take place at St. Clair County Community College. That's the certain age group of 18 to 25. Makes sense to us to have it there. Plus, the Blue Water Transportation Office is right across the street from the college, so they'll be getting transportation and learning how to use the public buses to be able to get to employment. And so that program is going to be added to the RESA budget next year. And then expenditures. I just wanted to let you know that, and Mrs. Sibula could certainly attest to this, we increased your P18 dollars, which is Public Act 18 money, to the tune of $500,000 for the county. The previous year, I think that was in excess of about $70,000 for East China for this current budget year. And that is something we can do when expenses don't exceed the revenue that we have. This next year, we're looking at several programs with the guidance from our local school districts, including East China, of adding additional behavior program staff. And so your superintendent has been a firm part of those conversations, and actually we have a meeting coming up about additional supports for our locals into next year, and that money would come out of PA18 dollars that are for that purpose. And then from the career and technical education side, our revenue is up about $170,000, but that can be attributed almost entirely to our career and technical education middle college program. This is different than the Blue Water Middle College. This program has students from all 7 school districts who attend tech as an 11th and 12th grader, and then attend college in half of their 12th grade year and then all of their 13th year without costing the districts anything. In fact, the districts get a 13th year foundation allowance for students in the technical middle college. That's been a great win-win collaborative program between the school districts, but that revenue is what we get in that. This is the first 13th year that we've had, as it started 2 years ago, so we're getting some revenue from those students in year 12 and 13 for those students. And then I wanted you to know that we'll have 150 plus students in that program effective this fall in its 3rd year, so it's been very successful. And then expenditure-wise, we've added 2 programs from tech. I mentioned the lean years. The positive part is we've added 2 years ago, construction trades, which disappeared during the Great Recession. We added that back 2 years ago, and then we added computer programming this past fall. So we're really proud to have 122 new students at Tech that weren't there 3 years ago. And so we're now the largest percentage of our local high school enrollment that we've ever been at Tech. A little over 12% of our students in high schools now attend St. Clair County Tech. So those are some brief highlights and some bullet points. I know you'll have some time to digest. You'll probably read this cover to cover. Line by line. Feel free to do that at your leisure. And then if you have any questions, your superintendent has my email address. Feel free to call me or email me, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and certainly happy to answer any questions that you have for me this evening.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
So there's a middle college program and a separate CTE Middle College
Yes.
program. Okay.
Yep.
Middle college itself has been around longer than the
Middle
CTE.
College has been around since 2010. The CTE Middle College we started 2 years ago. So this fall will be year 3 of the technical
And
middle
that's
college.
150 kids, you said? How many are in
This
the-
fall, there's about, in the initial class, because we got started a little bit late in the school year, was about 35. Second year was around 70, and we anticipate another 70 or more this year. So I think 150 might be low.
Okay. And then what about the regular middle college program? How many kids?
Regular middle college has over 800 this year
Okay.
for the first time. Well, it started over 800. You always have a few drops, but we have about 789 at present.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Just one editorial comment. I'm rooting for you, and I wish you the best in early May. You know I have a lot of love for this school district, having spent a few years here, and so I wish you all the best, and I'm rooting for you.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that.
All
Thank you.
Pleasure being here.
Okay, so now we are going to jump back up to the consent agenda. So a motion is needed for the approval of minutes from the regular Board of Ed meeting on March 18th, approval of the payment of bills, financial statements, and schedule of investments.
So moved.
Support.
Are there any comments or questions? Nope. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, great, motion carries. Item number 6, recognition of persons wishing to address the board. I have one green card from Nancy Mott.
Good evening, President Frank, Superintendent Cybula, and members of the board. My name is Nancy Mott, math teacher at St. Clair Middle School, proud member of the ECEA, and here to share with you some exciting things that are happening in our classrooms. Marine City Middle School band students held its own solo and ensemble festival on Thursday, April 11th. Students performed in solos, duets, or trios for a guest clinician who gave them a rating of excellent, very good, or fair. Students earning excellent or very good ratings received medals for their efforts. The event helped students improve their individual musicianship, and Mr. and Mrs. Fox were very proud hearing all of their performances. St. Clair Middle School's 6th grade science classes made Rube Goldberg machines during their study of energy. Students used various materials to show energy transfers. Their goal was to get a marble into a cup. Students watched clips of college contests from previous years, and the contraptions they made were very creative, and students worked collaboratively in Sheila Millett and Jesse Gilbert's classrooms. The 5th grade classrooms at Eddy Elementary hosted the annual book swap during March is Reading Month. Eddy families donated gently used books for the event. Students were able to purchase these books for $1 each, and it was a great way to put old favorite books into new hands to enjoy. The money raised helped defray the cost of the 5th graders' field trip to Camp Tamarack. The 5th grade classrooms also will once again be doing a service learning project for Earth Day. 5th graders at Eddy will be borrowing brown paper bags from Neiman's so that each and every student at Eddy can decorate one with an important Earth Day message. The 5th graders will then collect the decorated bags and return them to Neiman's so Neiman's can distribute the decorated bags on Earth Day. And that's under the direction of Sue Day and Melissa Bardecki. In March, Bell River 5th grade classes had a special guest speaker to teach them about sturgeon and the efforts being made in the St. Clair River and Great Lakes region to protect them. Each student will compete in a Sturgeon Creativity Contest. Then in May, all 3 classes of Becky Dunn, Kelly Carnahan, and Nancy Tyler will have the unique opportunity to go on a free field trip aboard the Huron Lady in Port Huron during the annual Sturgeon Festival. The St. Clair Middle School Links program, students wrote positive statements about the Links program on puzzle pieces and posted them on the wall when you first come into the St. Clair Middle School building. The Links program is a program where general ed students are linked with a special ed student, and they eat lunch and they play at recess together. This helps to increase socialization with all of the students. And that's in Tracy Bendett's class with the help of Stephanie Kosis. This is from the Marine City Middle School and Marine City High School Art Department and Marnie Williams. Students had work displayed in the St. Clair Art Association Middle and High School Art Exhibit, and they had several students in the show this year, as well as some great awards. High school awards went to Nicole Krusel. She received a first place award in the exhibit for her handmade paper plate dress. Erica Wensick received a third place award in the exhibit for her sculpture. A Marine City Middle School award went to Morgan Thomas, and she received a first place in the exhibit for her clay sculpture. And all of these are on show in the window at the St. Clair Art Association down at the mall. You have to go see the paper plate dress. It's amazing. Marine City High School is also having their first hour film festival, and that will take place at the Mariner Theater in Marine City on May 10th and 11th at 7 p.m. Please come to see the short films that were made this year in the Film and Cinema Studies class at Marine City. On April 30th, Marine City High School art students will be going to the Detroit Institute of Arts for an educational field trip. 4 teams from St. Clair Middle School competed in the RoboFest robotics competition this past Saturday, April 13th at West Bloomfield High School. Teams placed 9th, 12th, 21st, and 26th, respectively, out of 31 teams. Unfortunately, only the first 7 placed teams will advance to the World RoboFest in May. Scott Isley says this is great motivation for his robotics teams next year. The NCAA basketball tournament was used to teach probability, statistical measures, and displays at St. Clair Middle School 6th grade math. The students filled out brackets based on seed ranking and regular conference records. Students used the winning scores from the first, second, and third rounds of the tournament to calculate some statistics such as reign, mean, median, and mode. They found lower quartiles, upper quartiles, and outliers. Students analyzed what effect an outlier has on the central tendency of a set of data, and they also created stem and leaf plots, histograms, line plots, and box and whisker plots. We had a great time, Jesse Gilbert, Jan Lee, and I, incorporating the NCAA March Madness tournament into our math classrooms. The counselors of St. Clair County recently took a tour of Selfridge Air National Guard Base. All 3 counselors from the Marine City Complex, Kim Henry, Andy Scheel, and Tracy Graven, were able to participate in the event. The tour was filled with information about the opportunities available to our students who choose to join the various branches of the National Guard. And last but not least, Nicole Flynn's St. Clair Middle School 8th grade Spanish 1 students will be traveling to the Detroit Institute of Arts to examine Spanish culture and art. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move back to item number 7, information discussion items. 8, Tina for the resolution.
Good evening. In 2011, Public Act 152 was enacted that limited the amounts a public employer can pay for health care benefits for their employees. A public employer is limited to either the hard cap limits that are set by the state annually, or 80% of the annual cost for the medical benefit. The hard cap limits for 2019 were adjusted by 1.9%, and they're currently set at, for a one-person plan, $6,685, a two-person plan, $13,981, or a family plan at $18,232. With our current MESA rates and East China's 80/20 benefit sharing, for a one person, it is costing East China about $1,000 less. For a two-person plan, it's about $1,200 per plan less, and a family plan is at $2,350. And if the district were to choose to be a hard cap district, it would cost us over $360,000 more. And East China is required to make an annual election. So therefore, with this information, I recommend when you're approving the resolution for next month that you select the 80/20. Is there any questions regarding this?
This is a continuation of our current 80/20 procedures,
It is.
correct?
I believe that we have been in 80/20 sharing since the enactment of this legislation.
And that's only been like 3 years maybe that they enacted this, or no?
2011.
Okay. Says it right there. How about that?
Any other questions? Thanks, Tina. Okay, so our board action agenda items are next, and each of these action items are to approve the contracts for the services based on the lowest bidder that met our specification as spelled out in last month's board packet, and that was also presented at last month's meeting. So the first recommended action is per administration recommendation. The Board of Ed approves a 3-year custodial services contract with EnviroClean beginning July 1st, 2019. A motion is needed.
So moved.
Support. Does anybody have any things that they would like to discuss regarding this? No? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that carries. The next item is per administration recommendation. The Board of Ed approves a 3-year lawn and snow contract with Precision Care, also beginning July 1st, 2019.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. The next item is per administration recommendation. The Board of Ed approves a 2-year transportation services contract with METS, also beginning July 1st, 2019.
Support.
So moved.
Gotta move it first.
Did you get that, Dawn?
Just reverse the order and we're fine.
Any discussion on this, guys? Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carries. Next item, per administration recommendation, the Board of Ed approves a 3-year trash and recycling contract with Emterra beginning September 1st, 2019.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the per administration recommendation. The Board of Ed approves the MSBO bid for Build-A-Bus for international bus purchases in the amount of $362,828.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion on the buses? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, we have per administration recommendation, the Board of Ed approves a contract renewal with Compass Group USA, Inc., also known as Chartwells, for the 2019-20 school year.
So moved. Support.
Any discussion? Okay, everybody in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. So we're on to items for our next board meeting. We have the St. Clair County Association of School Board Scholarship Awards and our retiree recognition. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good meeting.